Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Bud Crawford is now being finalized for a bout in September at 168, no rehydration clause. Listen. At this point, you can't tell me anything about no damn Bud Crawford. He is about to fight Canelo Alvarez. It's now being finalized for September. At 168 for Canelo Alvarez unified titles. And Canelo Alvarez, he's putting his titles on the line. So shout out to Canelo. With no rehydration clause. Now, mind you, I do understand that Saul Canelo Alvarez is the A side. So, what he says goes. But what I'm saying is, Bud Crawford said bet. He could have said, well, rehydration clause or a few stipulations, or else we're not fighting. Just forget about it. No, Crawford said bet. That deal is now getting finalized. Listen, I want to say this. Remember when Gervonta Tank Davis, when he was going to fight Ryan Garcia, and he, the rehydration clause on Ryan Garcia, and it was also at a catchweight. Gervonta Tank Davis said, I'm not dumb, in reference to the stipulations. Y'all want me to be a dumb fighter, is what he said. Now looking at Terence Bud Crawford, it may be dumb, but boy, does it sound great. Doesn't it? I'm talking about doing something that has never been done. Terence Crawford going up 3 weight classes against the best fighter in that weight class and one of the greatest fighters ever. And so Canelo Alvarez going up 3 weight classes to fight him from welterweight up to 168 in 1 year as the older fighter, while Canelo's closer to his prime. And not just older, by the time he takes on Saul Canelo Alvarez, he'll be 38 years old. Canelo Alvarez is going to be 4 years his junior. That is not an advantage for Bud Crawford. No way. What Bud Crawford is doing is it resembles the type of crazy work we saw from back in the day, right? Other than Roy Jones Jr. jumping from lightweight to heavyweight to become a heavyweight world champion. You haven't seen the likes of that since like Bob Fitzsimmons. Sam Langford fighting at heavyweight, the likes of Jack Johnson, top 3 heavyweights of all time in my opinion. Fighting him and making a good fight out of it. Sam Langford was a welterweight, fighting Jack Johnson at heavyweight. Harry Greb was a welterweight, fighting Gene Tunney at heavyweight, and fought him 4 times, and had the nerve to win one. You're talking about the legendary stuff of Henry Armstrong and what he accomplished, holding down 3 different weight classes, no twinner weights, simultaneously as champ. Terence Bud Crawford jumping up weight classes. I'm going to say, I do have Canelo Alvarez winning this fight, but that's not the most important. What's most important is Terence Crawford daring to be great, and this is historic. I do think Canelo Alvarez wins, but I do think it'll be a great fight for as long as it lasts. But I do see a road to victory for Bud Crawford, and I think he's a great enough fighter to pull it off. The stab jab to the midsection to stop Canelo from pressing forward relentlessly. With Terence Crawford's footwork and his accuracy, his hand speed and stuff like that, and his IQ, he may just pull that off. Pause. But with that said, I know there's a lot of Saul Canelo Alvarez fans who are very concerned. They're concerned that if Canelo Alvarez beat Terence Bud Crawford, he won't get credit for it. I don't agree. I think Terence Crawford is too great of a fighter for Saul Canelo Alvarez to not get credit for beating him. I think he would get credit if he wins. Marvelous Marvin Hagler at middleweight not only fought Sugar Ray Leonard, but before he did, 5 years before Sugar Ray Leonard actually announced his retirement, Marvelous Marvin Hagler was calling out Sugar Ray Leonard, who was at 147. Marvelous Marvin Hagler was a champion middleweight. He was at 160. And he called out Sugar, and nobody saw him as picking on Sugar. Why? Because Sugar was an all-time great fighter. Terence Bud Crawford is an all-time great fighter. I think if Canelo Alvarez were to beat Terence Bud Crawford, he'd get some credit for it. Now, my understanding is this, that Terence Bud Crawford and Saul Canelo Alvarez will have a fight somewhere around May against, different opps. I think Canelo Alvarez, they're talking about him possibly taking on Skull so he can fight for undisputed, because William Skull now has the title. And Terrence Bud Crawford, I'm hearing rumors that he'll be fighting Sergey Derevyanchenko at 168. I want to say this about that. If y'all recall, Terrence Bud Crawford and I kind of fell out on X. The big issue was he was mad at me for saying or suggesting that Terrence Bud Crawford needs to fight at 168 for two reasons. To make critics a believer that he can campaign at 168 and be a good fight for Canelo Alvarez. And number two, so he can get adapt just to carrying that weight around at 168. I didn't need him to fight a champion at 168 or anything like that, or a great fighter. I just need him to get a few touches at 168. For those two reasons, Terrence Bud Crawford was very upset. But if this is true that he'll be fighting Derevyanchenko at 168, don't forget, Sergey Derevyanchenko just lost to Mbili at 168. All right? If he does that, then he was mad for nothing. What I was suggesting was not hate. I want to tell you guys, you fanboys, all those things that I was saying, I am not hating, all right? I am actually for the fighter. And once again, Terrence Bud Crawford may just be fighting Sergey Derevyanchenko at 168, and I think that's a great move that I applaud. Lastly, I want to say, Jaron Boots Ennis looked like he's going to unify and fight Stanionis. It looks like that fight will be finalized and planned for April. I think April 12th or something like that. Good. Boots Ennis trying to unify, and he's going to campaign at 147 because the fight with Teofimo Lopez will be at 147. I believe that fight is going to be in October. But let me know how you feel in the comments below about Terrence Bud Crawford and Saul Canelo Alvarez being finalized. This is great shit. I'm going to be there at that fight for history. I hope you guys are as excited as I am, because this is what the boxing fans really wanted. It's the boxing revolution. And though I predict a Canelo Alvarez win, I will be rooting for Terrence Bud Crawford because it's just a crazy historic moment that I think would put him in the top 5 pound for pound of all time if he beats Canelo Alvarez. I'm out.